A fight over funding is now putting victims of crime and domestic violence shelters in Missouri in a very tight spot. These are the places dedicated to helping survivors and their kids feel safe, to find refuge and freedom from trauma. Places like Kansas City's Hope House, which provides transitional and permanent housing, therapy, court advocacy, even a 24-hour hotline. The list goes on. Hope House is crucial for people in need.
They come in oftentimes with very little support. They come in feeling judged, having that judgment from other individuals in their life, and knowing that they can come here and it's a safe, warm environment and be told, you don't have to do this alone.
Along with donations and volunteers, Hope House relies on federal and state funding to help run its programs and keep meeting the need in our community. But that lifeline is in jeopardy right now. It starts with something called the Victims of Crime Act, or VOCA, a federal law. Billions of dollars from federal prosecutions and fines go into a special fund, which then is given out as assistance grants to help victims of all types of crime. But funding is being cut more and more, and states are left trying to fill the gap. Missouri had set aside millions of dollars to try and help, with $25 million a year going to victim advocacy and violence prevention programs. But now the governor's proposed budget takes that away and cuts another $1 million from domestic violence shelter services. The people with Hope House say the VOCA cuts would leave an estimated 140,000 crime victims across the state without access to critical support, and more than 13,000 victims would lose access to emergency housing alone. Let's get to the heart of the matter with Maryanne Metheny, CEO of Hope House. Thank you so much for being here. I know you want to get the word out on this with the General Assembly still in session. We've touched a little on this issue here, but just tell us why this funding is so important.
Well, this funding is for anyone that has been a victim of a crime. So it goes to service organizations that work with crime victims, but it also goes to law enforcement and prosecutors, because crime isn't just about the offender, it's also about the victim and how that victim is impacted by crime. So when we talk about the amount of money that is going to be cut from programs, it will be devastating. And really, with the work that we do, we're talking about people's lives. More people will die, more children will be abused, more people will be in the system with no one there to help them.
How would the cuts affect your services specifically?
Well, we're looking at, if nothing is done, we're looking at a 40 to 50% cut, which for Hope House alone is over $900,000.
Wow. Have you been talking to lawmakers? I imagine you're out lobbying. What are they telling you about this?
Well, you know, everyone is concerned. People support the work that we all do, but the overwhelming feedback is that the budgets are really tight. And my response to them has been, but priorities need to be made, and in my opinion, the priority needs to be towards victims, because if you're really going to address crime, then you have to take the victims into account as well.
In a time when the state is facing deep budget cuts, what's your message to Governor Kehoe?
You are impacting people's lives by not putting that money in, and people will be victimized, they're going to be damaged, people will have needs. And I think the other piece that's really important to consider is the impact on the system as a whole. So more and more people will be needing services, so that's going to impact law enforcement, prosecution, and services outside of just the victim services that we're providing. And I think the other piece is that we're also employers. So just in Jackson County alone, there's 7 organizations that we're working really hard together to try to get the message out. We alone have over 450 employees. So not only are we impacting services to victims, then if we have to lay people off, if we have to close services, then those people are going to be in the system. They're going to be looking for jobs. They're going to be looking for ways to meet their needs as well. So it's an economic impact as well.
What's the timeline here? Because I know time is of the essence.
So they have to pass the budget. That's the one job that they have to do every year, and that's in May. So we are working very hard right now with members of the House, but also we'll be working with the Senate members as well to try to get some, if not all of that money put back into the budget.
We know that Hope House has many facets for people who don't know. Tell us a little bit about everything you do if you
Right.
can.
Oh, of course. We are most known for shelter, but actually shelter is one of the smallest programs that we have. We have a very large outreach program where we're working, we have court advocates, we have 5 full-time court advocates and what we call a co-responder who are helping thousands of victims through the court process. We have a safe visitation center. We offer therapy for both people in shelter and outreach. We work with both adults and children. We have a housing program. Our goal is to meet people where they are and to try to help them so that they can manage through the victimization that they've experienced.
Well, we appreciate everything you and your giant staff is doing and trying to do for our community. And it's been decades that you've been doing this, so we appreciate that. Maryanne Metheny with Hope House, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate it.
If you or a loved one need assistance, please know help is out there. If it's not an emergency, call the Hope House 24-hour hotline at 816-461-HOPE or go online to hopehouse.net, and staffers will work to help you in your time of need.